You were not supposed to find out about this. What I am about to share with you was never meant for your ears. It was spoken in a low voice, in a private moment, between two men who trust each other with their lives. And the subject of that conversation, the name that came out of his mouth when his guard was completely down, was yours. He told his best friend that he loves you. Not casually, not in passing. He said it in the way a man speaks when something has been living inside his chest for so long that the pressure finally became unbearable. And here is what makes this so significant. He has not told you. He may not even be acting like someone who carries this kind of feeling. But the fact that he turned to another human being and opened his mouth and let your name fall out in the context of love, that is not a small thing. That is a psychological event. And by the time this message reaches you, you will understand exactly why. I need to be honest with you about something before we go further. There is a layer to what he confessed that goes beyond romance. There is something in what he said to his friend that reveals where he truly stands, not where his silence has led you to believe he stands, but where his unguarded heart actually lives. And that revelation is going to shift the way you see everything that has happened between you. If these messages continue to arrive in your life at the exact moment you need them, there is a reason. Stay close to this journey. The next message may carry the confirmation you have been quietly asking for. You have been living with a question, not one you ask out loud, not one you bring to friends over coffee or type into a search bar at midnight. It is a question that sits deeper than language. It lives in the pause before you fall asleep. It lives in the half-second your stomach drops when your phone lights up. Does he feel what I feel? Does any of this matter to him the way it matters to me? Am I imagining a connection that only exists on my side of the room? You are not imagining it, and the proof is sitting in a conversation you were never meant to hear. There have been mornings, you know the ones, when you woke up and the first thing that entered your mind before your feet even touched the floor was him. Not a thought you chose, not a memory you summoned. He was just there, already occupying the room before you opened your eyes. And you lay there for a few seconds longer than you needed to, staring at the ceiling, wondering why someone who gives you so little still takes up so much space inside you. You have rehearsed conversations with him that never happened. You have written messages you never sent. You have stood in the shower and let the water run longer than necessary because it was the only place where no one could see the expression on your face when you thought about the way he looked at you that one time. The look that lasted half a second too long and said everything his mouth refuses to say. And the hardest part, the part you have never told anyone, is that you are not even sure you have the right to miss him this much. Because from the outside, the connection does not look like much. From the outside, it looks like nothing happened. But you know something happened. You know it in a place that has no interest in logic or evidence or being reasonable. That knowing is not delusion, it is recognition. And what he told his best friend confirms it. Here is what you need to understand about men and silence. His quiet is not emptiness, it is containment. He has been holding something inside a sealed chamber in his chest, and the walls of that chamber have been thinning for weeks. He did not plan to speak about you. He did not wake up one morning and decide today is the day I tell someone. It happened the way all confession happens, involuntarily. Something cracked. A moment came where his friend said the right thing, or asked the right question, or simply sat in the right kind of silence, and he could not hold it anymore. Carl Jung wrote extensively about the psychology of confession, what he called the unburdening of the psyche. Jung understood that secrets carried alone become toxic. They do not sit still inside the mind. They press against the walls of consciousness. They generate anxiety, tension, physical symptoms. The unconscious demands expression. When a thought or a feeling is kept locked away from every other living soul, it does not weaken over time. It intensifies. It grows roots. It becomes a complex, an autonomous force inside the psyche that operates with its own gravity, pulling the entire personality toward it, even when the conscious mind resists. What this means for you is staggering. Every day he carried this feeling without speaking it, the feeling grew stronger. Every week of silence was not distance, it was compression. And when he finally opened his mouth and told his best friend the truth about what he feels for you, that was not a casual disclosure. That was a psychological eruption. The container broke. The secret demanded to exist outside of him. When you feel ready, type the words, "His truth is out," in the comments as a way to honor the moment his silence broke open. Now I need to take you inside that conversation. Not the specific words. I cannot give you a transcript of a moment I did not witness. But I can tell you, with the precision that psychology provides, what a confession of this nature contains. Because the structure of male emotional confession follows patterns that Jung mapped over a century ago, and those patterns have not changed. The first thing he would have done is minimize. This is not dishonesty, this is the persona, the social mask Jung identified as the face we wear to navigate the world without being consumed by vulnerability. His first words about you would have been wrapped in protective language, something casual, something that gave him room to retreat if his friend reacted with judgment. He would have tested the water before he dove in. But here is what happens next, and this is the part most people never see. Once the first sentence is out, once your name has been spoken in the context of genuine feeling, the persona cannot hold. It is like pulling a single thread from a tapestry. The entire structure begins to unravel, because the truth about you is not a single thought he can release and then recover from. It is connected to everything. It is woven into how he sees his mornings and his evenings and his future and his past. And once he started talking, he could not stop at the surface. His friend heard things that you have been desperate to hear, that you occupy a space in his mind that no one else has touched. That something about you reached a part of him he thought was permanently sealed. That he thinks about you in moments that have nothing to do with romance, when he is driving, when he is working, when a song plays that carries your frequency. His friend sat there and watched a man who is usually composed become someone unrecognizable, softer, more transparent, more afraid. And there is something specific about the way men confess love to other men that you need to understand. They do not use the language women use. They do not speak in poetry or emotional vocabulary. They speak in disruption. They say things like, "I cannot stop thinking about her." They say nothing else feels right anymore. They say, "I do not know what to do with this." And those sentences, stripped bare of decoration, raw as an open wound, carry more weight than any sonnet ever written. Because a man who tells his best friend, "I do not know what to do with this," is a man who has been conquered by something larger than his ability to manage it. He is not complaining, he is surrendering. And his friend heard that surrender in real time. What makes this even more significant is what his friend did not do. His friend did not laugh, did not minimize, did not change the subject. His friend recognized what was happening because the truth has a frequency that human beings can detect in each other. A vibration in the voice, a weight in the eyes, a stillness that only shows up when something real is being said. His friend felt the gravity of the moment, and by staying present, by listening without deflecting, his friend gave him something no one else has, permission to feel what he feels without shame. And that fear, I need you to understand this, that fear is not about you. It is about what you represent. Jung described what he called the confrontation with the self. The moment when a human being encounters something so true, so aligned with the deepest layer of who they are, that the ego panics. Because the ego survives on control, and what he feels for you is completely, terrifyingly beyond his control. You might be thinking right now, if he feels all of this, why am I the last one to know? Why did his friend hear it before me? The answer lives in a concept Jung called exteriorization, the process by which internal psychological content moves from the private interior of the mind into the shared external world. This process does not happen in one leap, It moves in stages. The first stage is internal acknowledgement. He admits to himself what he feels. The second stage is witnessed confession. He tells one trusted person. The third stage is direct expression. He tells you. He is not at the end of this process, but he is no longer at the beginning. He has crossed a threshold that cannot be uncrossed. His feeling for you now exists outside of his own mind. It lives in the awareness of another person. It has weight in the world, and that changes everything. Before I tell you what this means for what comes next, there is something else you need to hear. Something about why he chose his best friend and not you. This is not rejection. This is not cowardice in the way you might define it. This is the psychology of the trusted vessel, the ancient human need to pour dangerous truth into a container that can hold it without breaking. Jung studied this pattern across cultures and centuries, the confessional in religion, the analyst in therapy, the elder in indigenous traditions. Human beings have always needed a witness, someone who can receive the weight of a truth without being destroyed by it or weaponizing it. His best friend is his witness, and the truth he needed witnessed was the magnitude of what he feels for you. When you feel ready, type "I was the confession" in the comments as a declaration of what you now understand. There is a reason he could not bring this truth directly to you first, and it is not the reason your doubt has been whispering. It is not because the feeling is weak. It is because the feeling is so powerful that delivering it directly to the person who inspired it feels like standing at the edge of a cliff with no guarantee of what waits below. His friend was safe ground. You are the cliff, not because you are dangerous, but because you are the only person whose response has the power to reshape his entire world. Think about that for a moment. Let it land. He could not tell you first because your response matters more than anyone else's response in his life. That is not distance. That is the deepest form of significance. And there is something else happening beneath the surface that most people never consider. Jung identified what he called the collective unconscious, a shared layer of the human psyche where universal patterns live, patterns older than any individual life. One of the most ancient of those patterns is the ritual of declaring intention before a witness. In every culture across every century, before a man acts on something sacred, he speaks it into existence in the presence of someone who can hold the weight of it. A vow before an altar, an oath before a tribunal, a promise before an elder. His confession to his friend was not gossip. It was not venting. It was declaration. It was the unconscious following an archetypal pattern that his conscious mind does not even recognize, the pattern of preparing to act by first making the truth real through spoken word. You are the sacred thing he is preparing to act on. His friend is the witness to the oath he does not yet know he is taking. I want you to sit with that, not rush past it, not let your doubt reduce it. A man who speaks your name to the person he trusts most in this world, in the context of love, in the tone of someone who is overwhelmed by what he carries, is a man who has already made a decision he has not yet announced. When you feel ready, type, "The oath has been spoken" in the comments as a recognition of what his words truly represent. Now, something shifted the moment those words left his mouth. Jung wrote about what he called the relief of confession, the way the psyche reorganizes itself once a secret has been externalized. The anxiety does not disappear entirely, but the internal pressure drops. The thing that was consuming energy by staying hidden now consumes less. And that freed energy, that psychological bandwidth that was being used to suppress and contain and guard, becomes available for something else. It becomes available for movement, for action, for courage. His friend did not just listen. His friend became a mirror. And what he saw reflected back was not judgment, not mockery, not dismissal. He saw his own truth validated by another man. He saw that what he feels is not weakness. He saw that what he carries for you is not something to be ashamed of, but something to be honored. That mirror changed the internal landscape. When you feel ready, type "the mirror showed him" in the comments to mark this moment of recognition. Here is something most women never realize about male emotional honesty, and it is crucial that you hear this now. When a man confides in another man about love, real love, the kind that rearranges priorities and invades sleep and turns a grown man into someone who stares out of windows for no reason, something fundamental changes in the social architecture of his life. His friend becomes a keeper of accountability, not because his friend will pressure him or give ultimatums, but because every time they are together now there is an unspoken awareness in the room. His friend knows, and that knowledge creates a gentle, persistent gravity that pulls him toward action. He cannot sit across from his friend 6 months from now, still silent, still hiding, still pretending that you are not the most important unresolved truth in his life. The confession created a clock, not a deadline, nothing that harsh, but a rhythm, a pulse, a quiet expectation that the truth he spoke will eventually become the truth he lives. His friend will not need to say a word. The awareness alone is enough. The psyche does not tolerate indefinite contradiction between spoken truth and lived reality. Something has to give, and what will give is his resistance. Most women leave this conversation at exactly this point. They hear the psychology, they understand the pattern, but they do not stay long enough to receive the most important part. What comes next is specifically for you. For the woman who has made it this far, who has felt every word landing in a place she thought no one else could reach. You have been interpreting his behavior through the lens of absence, through what he has not said, through what he has not done, through the distance between the last message and now. But behind that absence is a man who sat with his closest friend and laid himself bare. Behind that silence is a voice that spoke your name with reverence. Behind that composure is someone who looked another man in the eyes and admitted that he is in love and he does not know what to do about it. I know a part of you wants to protect yourself right now. That part is saying, how do I know this is real? How do I know he is not just talking and never acting? How do I know this confession changes anything? And I want to honor that part of you because she has kept you safe through painful seasons, but I also want to tell her something gently. Confession is action. Speaking a truth out loud to another human being is one of the most significant psychological acts a person can perform. It is the bridge between the interior world and the exterior world, and he walked across it, voluntarily, with your name on his lips. Jung described a phenomenon he called the point of no return in the individuation process, the moment when a person has externalized enough of their inner truth that retreating into the old pattern becomes psychologically impossible. The old defenses no longer fit. The persona that kept everything hidden has been punctured. He cannot untell his friend. He cannot unspeak your name. He cannot fold the truth back into the sealed chamber because the chamber has been opened and the air has changed inside it. Type, "There is no going back" in the comments if you understand the permanence of what he has done. Something is already shifting. Not tomorrow. Not in some vague spiritual future. Right now. The conversation he had with his friend set something in motion that operates on its own timeline. You may begin to notice small changes. A message that arrives without a clear reason. A glance that holds a fraction longer than it should. A moment where his voice drops half a register when he speaks to you. Not because he is trying to be seductive, but because the truth sitting in his throat changes the texture of every word. These are not coincidences. These are the aftershocks of confession. When internal pressure is released, the effects ripple outward in ways neither person can fully control. His energy toward you will begin to change because the energy inside him has already changed. The wall between what he feels privately and what he expresses publicly has a crack in it now. And cracks do not repair themselves. They widen, day by day, conversation by conversation, until the wall that once seemed permanent becomes nothing more than a memory of the fear he used to carry. You will also notice something in his friend, a knowing look, a comment that seems oddly specific, a warmth toward you that was not there before. Because his friend now carries a piece of the truth, and human beings are not built to hold other people's love stories without being affected by them. His friend is silently rooting for you. His friend has seen the version of this man that you have always known existed, the one without armor, the one who feels deeply, the one who is afraid of how much he needs you. When you feel ready, type, "I see the cracks forming" in the comments as a recognition that the walls are already weakening. Here is what I need you to do with this knowledge. Nothing. Not nothing as in passivity, nothing as in sovereignty. You do not chase a man who is already in the process of coming toward you. You do not rush a confession that is already unfolding on its own sacred timeline. You do not force open a door that is already unlocking from the inside. What you do is this. You continue being exactly who you are. The woman whose name he could not keep inside anymore. The woman whose presence in his life became too significant to carry alone. The woman who, without trying, without manipulating, without performing, became the subject of his most vulnerable conversation. That is not a small thing. That is everything. You did nothing to manufacture this. You did not perform. You did not strategize. You did not shrink yourself into something more convenient or inflate yourself into something more impressive. You were simply, fully, unapologetically yourself. And that self, the real one, the one without a filter, the one you sometimes doubt, is the one that broke through every wall he had built. His friend knows it. He knows it. And now, slowly, irreversibly, the distance between knowing and acting is collapsing. Let me tell you what is coming. Not as prediction, but as pattern. Jung mapped the trajectory of confession across thousands of cases, and the pattern is remarkably consistent. After the externalization comes a period of integration. The psyche adjusts to the new reality of having been seen. This period can feel like silence from your perspective, but inside him it is the opposite of silence. It is reorganization. Every defense he built is being examined against the new truth. Every excuse he made is being weighed against the words he spoke to his friend. And one by one, those excuses are losing. There will be a moment, and it may come sooner than you think, when the gap between what he told his friend and what he has told you becomes intolerable. When the distance between his private truth and his public behavior creates a tension that his psyche can no longer sustain. Jung called this the ethical demand of consciousness. The principle that once a truth has been made conscious and externalized, the psyche generates increasing pressure to align behavior with that truth. He is under that pressure now, and it is building every day. When he comes to you, and he will come, it will not look like a grand cinematic gesture. It will look like a man standing in front of you with shaking hands and a voice that keeps almost breaking. It will look like someone who rehearsed 1,000 versions of this conversation and still cannot get the first sentence right. It will look like eyes that hold yours and will not let go, because letting go has become harder than holding on. You will see him take a breath that catches halfway through, and in that small stutter of air you will hear everything. Every night he spent arguing with himself. Every morning he woke up reaching for courage and finding fear. Every conversation with his friend that brought him one step closer to this exact moment. And you will feel it in your body before he finishes speaking. You will feel the truth land in your sternum, in the exact place where the question used to live. And the question will be answered, not with words alone, but with his presence, with his choice, with the full weight of a man who carried love in secret until the secret carried him to you. And here is the part that will surprise you most. When it happens, it will not feel like a beginning. It will feel like a return, like something that was always supposed to be, finally arriving on the schedule it was always meant to keep. There will be a familiarity in the moment, a recognition, as if your soul has been rehearsing this reunion in a language your mind could not translate until now. The waiting will not feel wasted. It will feel like it was the exact preparation your heart needed to receive what was always coming. Type, "He is already on his way" in the comments as a declaration of trust in the process that has already begun. If this message landed in your heart the way it was meant to, carry it forward. Share it with the woman in your life who is also waiting, also wondering, also holding a question she is afraid to speak out loud. By sharing, you become part of something larger. A circle of women who hold space for each other's hope when the silence feels too heavy to carry alone. To continue receiving these messages at the moment they are meant to reach you, stay close. The next one may carry the very thing your heart has been preparing to hear. His truth has been spoken. His walls have been breached. And love, the kind that survives silence and distance and fear and the full weight of a man's resistance, is walking toward you with steady, irreversible steps. You are known. You are spoken for. You are closer than you have ever been.